Throughout, in the beginning or at the end, you may notice a meditation put into the video. I showed Zane this without any real preconception to it, and just to get his reaction. And I was hoping upon recording it separately from this that he would, in some way, shape, or form, be able to find a way to kind of put it in either at the beginning, at the end, or interspersed throughout randomly, just for creative purposes, what he's able to do with this. And I guess we'll just kind of see.
Just make sure you count your go.
Now, how to become.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of Slightly Serious.
I'm Nick.
I'm Zane. How you doing, brother?
I'm here.
You here?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. He's putting a little bit of goo on some tattoos.
A little tattoo goo.
But we do have, as you can see on the table, a decent amount of book stuff today. So I think we're going to cut the crap, get right to the book corner. Pretty quick.
This is the next segment called Cut the Crap.
Cut the crap. Cut the fucking shit.
Now, deep breath and breathe out. Deep in.
All right. Well, we're here.
Welcome to Cut the Crap.
Welcome
Here
to
we
crap.
are.
Book corner. Shit. Sorry. Fuck. What's it called? God damn it.
What do you got for me?
So we talked about last episode. I was talking about the series I was reading. I was checking my phone a lot, trying to wait. We were waiting for the delivery of this. This is the actual physical copies of the books I've been listening to. Something that we weren't expecting when it came to these books is the
how
amount
awesome they
of
are.
detail that these books have.
Pretty cool.
So I have a little side camera set up to show y'all. We'll do this real quick.
Check it out.
But artwork on these is actually super crazy. Like this, the covers themselves are real nice.
Mm-hmm.
On the inside of the books, there's just like front covers. Artwork is super detailed, super pretty. Inside the book, because like one of the characters makes sketches about stuff she sees, takes notes. She's like kind of a scholar on top of what she does in the story. There's actual like artist renditions of what would have been her sketches.
Super cool.
Super details, like notes and stuff.
Very cool stuff.
And like even like renditions of what the languages would have looked like written.
And while she like makes the little sketches in there, it's almost like she's like, it feels like she's doing it while you're reading it, because she's like, I could study these creatures for hours.
Yeah, it's literally her notes as she was like writing it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The last book has a unique cover because the actual like the plastic wrap cover actually is a map on the inside, which I thought was really cool. The binding of these books is fantastic. Just the amount of detail put into printing this series was insane.
Yeah, even when you take the book jacket off, like the actual cover itself is just pretty.
Outside of that, we have the 4 books that are currently released. There's a 5th book coming out in December.
Again, the first was The Way of the Kings.
Yeah, we have Way of the Kings, Words of Radiance. I'm currently on Oathbringer. The 4th book is Rhythm of War.
But there's 2 novellas that fit in the middle.
Yeah, in between the Words of Radiance and Oathbringer is Edge Dancer, which I have read. And then there's Dawn Shard, which goes after the 3rd book, but before the 4th book. So I'll be reading that one next. So I've read Edge Dancer. We're reading Dawn Shard next. So those are going to be coming up soon. I'm looking forward to those. They're very great series, lots of details. Very suggested that you read it just from the start. Make sure you read the novellas in between where they need to go. It's not a series where you can just kind of hop in the middle and really know what's happening. There's a lot of nuanced information throughout. But fantastic series. I'm almost done with book 3. Probably about next week I'll have book 3 and the novella done at least.
Okay.
Probably won't have book 4 done for at least 2 weeks, if not more.
They're big books.
They're big books, and outside of things like outside of reading, I still do, especially with anybody who knows me. I do like football. Football season starting. I do fantasy football, so some of my time with my audio will be going to fantasy podcasts and stuff, making sure that I win my fantasy league because I'm competitive. But books wise, fantastic. I'm in love with these books. I'm waiting for the 5th book so I can get it, and I'll have all 5. I'm sure they'll probably maintain this level of detail even into the last book. So
at least this publishing press, I mean, they're beautiful.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. It's all Tor fantasy. It's been awesome, but it's a lot of details. I said I could talk for hours on each of these books alone. There's a 1,200 pages each, 50 plus hours of audio each if you do audiobook wise. Even the novellas are like almost like 250, 300 pages, which is like some books full size. And they're just to fill information in between. That's how much shit there is in these. They're
Character
fantastic.
development, really, right?
Yeah. But to have pretty much its own book written just for character development purposes in between the actual novels just shows you how much detail he's putting into this world. So it's fantastic. If you are a fantasy fan, especially stuff like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. I mean, Harry Potter isn't as detailed as this does, but it's still a fantasy idea. If you like stuff like Lord of the Rings, Dune, things like that, it's a very phenomenal series. Fantasy fans, I definitely suggest reading it, and I'll update you guys as I get read more next week. We got Nick over here with looks like you got some more on the mushroom stuff we talked about last week and some Buddhism stuff.
Yeah, I got the essence of Buddhism that I've been working through. I mean, you can kind of show them how much I've really.
The brain taking out the goats and lambs.
How much I've really put into.
He's done this for a lot of his books now. He's doing this post-it note marking to mark like important stuff or things that he thought was important to talk about.
It's kind of like that in all these books right now. This one right here is the essence of Buddhism. It is a Dhamma text. I don't want to discuss this too much, but I will just say that the one idea in here that I really just, of all of these, could point out is this. There is more meaning in the statement that man gives laws to nature than in its concourse that nature gives laws to man. When a law has been found to be true, in all known cases, we naturally expect that it would apply to cases that might hereafter come to our knowledge. The greater number of cases in which a law has been observed to hold good, the greater is the probability that it is universally true. If the sun has risen daily without fail during the last 5,000 years, it's 1,826,213 days, the odds in favor of its rising tomorrow are 1,826,214 to 1. And this amounts to saying that the rising of the sun tomorrow is practically certain. Thus, every natural law represents a limitation of our thoughts, of our expectations. The more closely our thoughts are adapted to the sense-given facts, the greater are the restraints to the possibilities of our thinking, and stronger is the instinctive tendency to expect an event to happen in exactly the same manner as before. The law of causality. It's been highly instructive. If you got more questions,
Read
it. Next book, Psilocybin Handbook for Women. Why women? Because it's who she chose to target to. It also discusses certain things in here like, oh, I'm going to be under the influence of a psychedelic. I might have a spiritual teacher. Are they going to molest me? You'll find out. Different things of that sort. More tailored towards women. I make light of it, but it's the reality. That's what the book is tailored to.
I mean, it's literally what it's titled.
Talks about how long the effects of psilocybin will last. Kicks in anywhere from 10 to 40 minutes. Lasts anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. What are psilocybin's effects on the brain? Gets into ego death, the default mode network, BDNF.
Lots of scientific terms.
Lots of scientific terms, yeah. Full disclosure, Zane and I discussed a lot of this.
So, yeah, I'll probably put this a little bit spliced at the beginning. This episode is going to seem a little condensed in our manners, and we do apologize for that. We had about an hour and 20 minutes of recording done when the audio corrupted.
And we weren't even, we were about halfway through what we had to talk about. This was going to be such a big episode.
So what might end up happening is we might just do a condensed kind of catch up, and then next week do a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
We'll give him another week to kind of
audio file got corrupted.
More.
This is the second time I've had an audio file corrupted while discussing Buddhism in depth. So I will say that. So we decided not to go too in depth into
but just a heads up.
Anything else?
This episode is going to probably feel like we're condensed and rushed
and that's because it is.
Kind of is. We're trying to get caught up to kind of where we were. We did kind of like trying to figure out how to go talk through it, so it's a little bit more streamlined to catch up to where we were. But again, main thing is a lot of this information. If you want more details on it, read the books. I don't really go into too much details on these anyways because I could, as I said, talk for hours. Mm-hmm. And again, he can, which he was proving earlier, where he talked for about an hour already on 2 of the books. He was just getting into the 3rd book when we realized the audio corrupted.
Yeah.
So, but again,
maybe it stopped me from getting too far into a tangent.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. And it's one of those things where we got to realize we also have multiple episodes. We can bring you information on every one of them.
It goes into fear extinction, psilocybin's effects on the limbic system, revisiting trauma, eye and vision changes. Can it affect people who are colorblind and allow them in a way to possibly see color differently?
Hell yeah.
Changes in sleep, cardiovascular, temperature changes, gastrointestinal. Can it help with eating disorders? Can it help with... Are there psilocybin-associated deaths? Is it considered safe? What to know about your drug supply, as they call it? What do you need to know about psilocybin and underlying conditions? Just like basically knowing, not everything you purchase is what it seems. It's worth checking to ensure that what you're planning to ingest is actually a psilocybin mushroom. There's a lot of accidental poisoning of mushroom cases, and the majority of the stuff that you hear that you think, it's just like every mushroom's poisonous. It's not necessarily the case. Will you ever have a never-ending trip? The different things that you're scared into thinking sometimes about these. This book was really informative. I want to go through every little bit of it, but
he does. And there was one thing that is nothing important to bring up. He talked about it on the other recording. Is this book is towards women? There is parts where it talks about consent and like being aware of who you're doing these around, because the sad truth of our world is that women have to think about their own safety when they do anything like this that might compromise their ability to think and make decisions in the moment. So there's parts of talking about that. This is an important thing I think to bring up because it is, again, the sad truth of our world. So, again, for women
and there's
stuff,
people who have
stuff.
abused the psychedelic properties of certain things, like Charles Manson, for instance, who could use people who are susceptible under the influence to get them to believe certain things or think in certain ways or do certain things. So it's like...
Yep. So I figured that was a good detail just to kind of bring up, because I saw him kind of, as he was going through trying to figure out topics to like pinpoint. That's just one that I think is a pretty big one to kind of bring up.
Was not the one I would have targeted on in there, but it is a topic for sure. And I think that's the one that made this more so targeted towards women than other people, but there were a lot of other things that were mentioned. The other one I read was Trip, Psychedelics, Alienation and Change. And on the front of this, I had put a little joke.
A dark joke.
Kid tells another parent.
It's dark.
Or kid tells another child that his parents are getting a divorce. He's like, hey, sorry, I'm messed up. I'm just not thinking today, Johnny. My parents are getting a divorce. And his buddy goes, what'd you do?
Joke on the fact that kids think that they're the reason their parents got divorced. Man, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. It's funny. Unfortunately, it made me chuckle the first time.
This I am going to read. The idea that Stropharia cubensis and other 200 plus known species of psilocybin-containing mushroom did not originate on Earth was proposed. Continued to suggest and promote it throughout their life, but the idea came from the mushroom itself. According to McKenna, who quoted the mushroom verbatim after receiving insight, straight transcription, he said in 1983 in the foreword to psilocybin, I am old. Older than thought in your species, which is itself 50 times older than your history. Though I have been on Earth for ages, I am from the stars. My home is no one planet. For many worlds scattered through the shining disk of the galaxy have conditions which allow my spores an opportunity for life. Interesting. In fact, in the 2-page quote, I don't know why I said 100, the mushroom explained that its nearly immortal body, only the sudden toxification of a planet or the explosion of its parent star can wipe me out, was a network in the soil with potentially more connections than in a human brain, and that it sought symbiosis, a relation of mutual dependence and benefits with humankind. And its memory was the knowledge of hyperlight drive ships and how to build them. It would trade this knowledge for a ticket via humans to worlds around stars younger and more stable than the sun. It's just cool. One reason to make this argument about the mushroom and the extraterrestrial was to show people how one can see things differently. In the mushroom-focused penultimate chapter, he wrote that species with star travel would look as they wished to look, and that the mushroom, living on dead organic matter seem designed with Buddhist values of non-interference and low environmental impact in mind. Interesting how just a book on psilocybin somehow offhandedly mentions Buddhism. It also goes into how serotonin, psilocybin, DMT, and psilocin, which psilocybin turns into in the body, all resemble the compound of serotonin, which is our happiness receptor. And then even says magic is the seventh word that McKenna and psychedelics helped me define. Before I associated magic with its fantastical meaning of a skill used to harm and heal, its figurative meaning, in which auspicious, uncommon events were called magical, and its literal meaning as a synonym for impossible. I avoided using the word because it referred to something I couldn't remember ever experiencing or detecting, though I suspect I did once as a baby or toddler. You know, the mind of a child is entirely different from the mind of an adult, and the way they perceive and see things. So much of it is so magical to them, whereas we condition ourselves to sort of like think we're going to get the same response over and over and over again. And it's like we just keep thinking that, it's happened a million times before. I mean, it's going to happen again tomorrow. Yep. It's always happened. But we haven't been alive for a million years to begin with. So it's like, had we been, we would have seen maybe the one or two times that wasn't occurring. So who knows? Food for thought. Chantel Dreams. Amanita Nightmares. This is literally just a book on mycology. It's the love, lore, and mystique of mushrooms. However, it was incredibly beneficial to me to understand that in our mycophobic society, people who are, society afraid of mushrooms, most people assume that in the absence of other information to the contrary, a wild mushroom's poisonous. In fact, there's even like this...
Just relax.
Irish Wildlife Trust, the Sleeve Phelim branch, they're holding this fungal foray next Sunday, 16th October at Glenstall Woods. And there's like this sign that was posted up in Ireland, right? And it says mushroom hunting is ranked as one of the most dangerous pastimes in the world. Knowing which are the edible mushrooms is the hardest part of the hunt. They've got bizarre names like sickener, death cap, all these different things. And it goes on to talk about how it's the most dangerous pastime. And once... there's little that medical science can do once you've eaten them and all these other things. So here's some facts regarding mushrooms. There's little to no distinguish between an edible and a toxic mushroom species is not a fact, actually. These are some of the announcements instead of beliefs commonly held, right? So let me just start with the beliefs, the non-facts, actually. There's little to distinguish between an edible and a toxic mushrooms. Few wild mushrooms are edible and most are poisonous. One sickened by a dangerously toxic species, little can be done to save a life. And mushroom hunting is one of the world's most dangerous pastimes. That's what they spew at you, right? Here's the truth. There are more edible mushrooms in our woods than poisonous ones. And still, that are non-edible but not poisonous or with an unknown edibility. Handling a toxic mushroom will not make you sick. Mushroom toxins have not been shown to be absorbed through the skin. Very few of the wild mushrooms you see are dangerously toxic. Mushroom toxins are grouped by their modes of action in the body. The majority of mushroom poisoning cases involve gastrointestinal, which resolves within 24 hours. And over a 30-year period, based on reports to the North American Mycological Association, 1 or 2 people die of mushroom poisoning in the United States every year. 1 or 2. So it's just not what we all kind of thought it was. Some other really important things are that, Amanita muscaria is not the same thing as psilocybin. Mushrooms were never really something that we were smoking. Now they're in vapes.
I Googled a thing earlier. It was talking about amatoxins, which your book had mentions there.
Liver-destroying toxins found in the Amanita.
Where it says that, it mentions here all the different things. Because it says that there's 7 main categories of toxins found in mushrooms. Amatoxins, gyromitrins, orelline, muscarine, ibotenic acid, psilocybin, and coprine. And then it lists all of them. But it does say, first thing, amatoxins are the most common cause for severe poisoning and fatalities.
Yes.
Outside of that, because it's the one that causes diarrhea, things like that.
Yeah, they're so potent that if you take as little as 0.1 milligram, you can die.
Yep. So it says it is the death cap mushroom
per 1 kilogram body weight.
Contains a large amount of amatoxin, is responsible for 90% of fatal mushroom poisoning cases. So the death cap mushroom alone is the biggest one. It says a lot of the other ones, like the gyromitrins or toxins that have epileptogenic and affect like the central nervous system.
Yeah.
Orlamine and norlesterine are toxins that are nephrotoxic. Muscarine, psilocybin, things like that are more central nervous system ones. And then coprine is it can cause.
But don't be confused. There's only there's
a lot of
numerous
toxins,
types
but the thing
of Amanita mushrooms, though.
Yeah,
and they're not all containing this toxin, and that's what I need people to know. It's like that what you're talking about is a death cap mushroom. It's not even found out
so
here.
Saying like but I'm saying that mushroom is like 90% of the issues.
Yeah,
a lot of these are toxins, so they may not feel good, but most of these things aren't
from psilocybin,
lethal too.
They're not from
most of it is not psilocybin. Even the ones that aren't psilocybin, most of them have side effects.
Further clarification on what he just said and facts. Like specific facts, it's a liver-destroying toxin found in amanitas, and it's so potent it takes as little as 0.1 milligrams of alpha amanita to kill per kilogram of body to kill a person. A lethal dose for an average-sized adult is only 6 to 7 milligrams. Okay. Since the cap can easily weigh 50 to 60 grams, a cap that's 4 inches in diameter could kill several people. By way of comparison, consider a standard dosage of several common products. In general, it takes 200 to 400 milligrams of ibuprofen or 325 to 650 milligrams of aspirin to treat a headache. To treat an infection like strep throat, we may take 200 to 500 milligrams of an antibiotic twice a day for 10 days. And a 16-ounce Starbucks regular drip coffee delivers on average 320 milligrams of caffeine. Yet only 6 milligrams of amanitin will kill 50% of adults who consume it.
Another thing this thing says here, going along with that, is the symptoms of mushroom poisoning can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 24 hours to show, depending on the type of mushroom and how much is eaten in the person's health.
People feel something in my guts. I can't feel it about us.
All right. I don't know where the fuck we're at. We had another issue here. Camera froze on us, and now we're back. A lot of issues. I don't really know where we were at, but this is a pretty cool book. Amanita muscaria is what I want to talk about. Not just Amanita. Amanita muscaria is not poisonous. It is what is being used to replace psilocybin legally right now. And I just want to point out some things. The fly agaric, or Amanita muscaria, has a contradictory and confusing reputation. It is a visionary hallucinogenic mushroom used in several cultures across the world, most notably in Siberia and other Baltic regions, where people use it as an intoxicant and as an aid to shamanic healing and ritual. It has a long history of reported application as an attractant and killer of houseflies. Some consider it a deadly poisonous species, though it has claimed few lives over the past 150 years. Others have learned how to prepare it safely as food and esteem it as an edible mushroom. Now, here's a cool fact. The many common names of the red or yellow amanita reflect its rich history around the world. Like most Americans, the British know this mushroom as the fly agaric. Different things here and there, here and there, here and there. It's a red mushroom. You see it with fairies sometimes around. As children, we believe that reindeer fly through the night sky, hauling a sleigh, bearing a red-garbed, white-trimmed Santa Claus who crosses the land spreading good cheer and gifts. And, of course, for all you children, just as reassurance, Santa's very much real. These are some facts from a book that you can completely disregard. Some believe the image of Santa in red and white is a representation of the fly mushroom. Others postulate that reindeer came to fly through our sugar plum-filled imaginations, fueled by Amanita muscaria. Are the reindeer physically flying, or are they high as kites? Reindeer, as they're called in Europe and Asia, are herd animals of the tundra and taiga of northern regions. This is the same animal known as caribou in North America, just to give you a frame of reference. They have been domesticated for centuries, and their husbandry forms the basis of the nomadic lifestyle of Lapps in present-day Norway and Finland. The Kuchi of Siberia Kukchi, however you say that, and other nomadic groups in Mongolia. Traditionally, for all the nomadic groups, reindeer skins provided the raw materials for the tents over their heads, the clothing on their backs, and the warm, tough boots on their feet. So reindeer play a very important part in culture, right? So just to give you a little idea here, reindeer are normally fairly docile and they're easily managed. In some regions, children as young as 3 learn to ride and handle the large beasts, and infants are carried in cradles on their backs as families travel to new grazing land. So children are also involved culturally with the reindeer. Now, they are pack animals that carry up to 100 pounds across tundra landscapes. The connection between reindeer and the fly mushroom has been reported many times, most famously by Gordon Wasson's work, Soma, Divine Mushroom of Immortality, which sums up a number of historic references. Here's where it gets so interesting. Reindeer are fond of mushrooms, and they actively seek them out as a preferred food during the short Arctic season when mushrooms abound. They love the fly mushroom and have been observed selecting them preferentially over other types. That means they choose them over other mushrooms. Under the influence of the fly mushroom, the normally docile reindeer becomes quite frisky and difficult to manage, and stories abound of their leaping and cavorting across the tundra after a meal of the bright red fruit, which can be stuck to their nose. A bright red fruit stuck to a reindeer's nose while it hops and skips, appearing to fly through the night? Sounds like... No, but it couldn't be. Anyway, under the influence of the fly mushroom, the normally docile becomes quite frisky, difficult to manage, Reindeer not only seek out the mushrooms to eat, but also will seek out the urine of other reindeer or the urine of humans who relieve themselves after eating fly agaric. The mushroom's psychoactive chemical is excreted in urine, and the reindeer can smell it. Accounts have described assertive tactics of the herd leaders seeking Mukomar-tainted urine. And the journal of an 18th century Russian explorer described reindeer herds using seal skin containers of tainted urine to lure wandering animals back into the herd. So, this fly agaric, Amanita muscaria, can be used as an intoxicant and a visionary vehicle. Vehicle being, there's like 3 different vehicles of Buddhism, depending on whether you can attain enlightenment in one or multiple lifetimes. So, native Siberians adapt the use of mushrooms as food. Amanita muscaria had an impact on different cultures. It talks about the 60s. Here we go. I have eaten fly agaric 3 times. On the second of those occasions, I experienced nothingness but a slight nausea. The other times, I got gloriously, colossally drunk. I say drunk rather than high, because I was illuminated by none of the sweet oceanic electricity that has been my privilege to conduct after swallowing mescaline or LSD-25. On acid, I felt that I was an integral part of the universe. On muscaria, I felt that I was the universe. There was no sense of ego loss. Quite the contrary, I was a superhero who could lick any archangel in town and the rusty boxcar it hoboed in on. I wasn't hostile, understand, but I felt invincibly strong and fully capable of dealing with the furniture, which was breaking apart and melting into creeks of color at my feet. Although my biceps are more like lemons than grapefruit, I would have readily accepted a challenge from Muhammad Ali. You can see how it like doesn't quite act and react the same way. So although it has intoxicating effects, it's a different sort of perception. Talks about the fly agaric in literature and Lewis Carroll using it in Alice in Wonderland. But it does say that Amanita muscaria is a poisonous mushroom. And a few mushroom experts call it deadly poisonous. It is also an edible mushroom if properly prepared. And that's the thing. If properly prepared, yes. But it's being used to mimic psilocybin in vapes. Charles McIlvaine, famous for his mushrooming world for his cast iron stomach and effusive praise on the edibility of marginal mushrooms, considered the fly agaric poisonous to a high degree. So I just want to point out that this is not the same thing as psilocybin, and there's way more I can go into about it. Psilocybin here goes on about that. So this was, it has some pictures in here. So it's been really informative, but more so on a different aspect of the psilocybin. So I'm glad I've been reading multiple books. And now we've talked about how it could potentially be an alien, how it could potentially inhibit certain receptors, how it could, all these different things. Molecules that amaze us is another one. This is really short. I didn't do much here. I only read psilocybin and mescaline. They group together, the magic mushroom molecule. It does go again, psilocybin, mescaline, psilocin, serotonin, talks about, they're psychoactive compounds because they closely resemble the structure of neurotransmitters such as serotonin and norepinephrine. Epinephrine. Man, I suck at pronouncing things right now. They basically convey impulses from one nerve to another. Do these drugs produce religious experiences? Recent double-blind studies support the view that psilocybin can induce experiences similar to mystical experiences and enhance autobiographical recollection. It has potential in psychotherapy either to facilitate and recall a salient memory or to reverse negative cognition biases. There is evidence that a strong dose of psilocybin can affect the personality for a year, possibly for longer. And if psilocybin can produce religious experiences, then it's quite possible that naturally occurring psychoactive molecules like dopamine or serotonin could do the same, if their concentrations in the brain become unusually low or high for some reason. It could be argued that many of the ancient prophets and mystics revered by different religions all over the world just experienced an imbalance in their brain chemistry rather than a true supernatural intervention. Either way, psilocybin and other psychoactive molecules are definitely food for thought. It's also important to keep in mind that where these things grew naturally at that period of time could in fact be right around the area where those prophets were.
Mm-hmm. The Baltic region it talked about.
Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind. This is as close to that 21 Rules for Life from a psychoactive property standpoint you could get. Natural history, be mushroomed. As in here, a little natural history behind it all, and there's been a lot here that I really tried to absorb, and I did. I acquired a lot of information about psilocybin in perspective, the neuroscience, your brain on psychedelics. There's a lot here. As I get further back into this, there's a few little pages that might have been more than less. When the brain operates under the influence of psilocybin, thousands of new connections form, linking far-flung brain regions that during normal waking consciousness don't exchange much information. In effect, traffic is rerouted from a relatively small number of interstate highways onto myriad smaller roads, linking a great many more destinations. The brain appears to become less specialized and more globally interconnected, with considerably more intercourse or crosstalk among its various neighborhoods. Here is what your brain looks like under placebo. And here is what your brain looks like under psilocybin or psilocin itself. And you can see where the connections, the different pathways, there's way more of them. And in fact, they lead to areas that weren't connected before. So your brain actually opens up in a way, and the neurotransmitters and everything, they start to become way more open and send signals everywhere, allowing you to perceive things in ways that you may or may not have perceived them before.
Harry Potter?
A little Harry Potter ringtone there. You like that? Talks about entropy of the brain and how that could be a benefit. How our mind has, throughout the ages, developed and expanded. Specifically after we got a spinal cord put into our system through evolution. And
I bought mine. Mine wasn't evolution. I put mine in.
Did you buy it off? Is it secondhand or?
No, it's just artificial.
Nice. So yeah, there's a lot here. This was really, really cool. Psychedelics and psychotherapy, in the dying, being used in the dying, and coming to terms with certain things. So it's been enlightening, man. I've just been reading so much, and the amount of time and effort that I've put into this. I could just keep trying to pass it along, but I think I can just kind of like, I can tell you what I've been reading, and if you have interest in it, you can go read it yourself rather than me sit here and read it to you. Clearly based off of, I mean, when you look at these and you see the amount of effort I've really put into actually not only reading them, but finding parts that I wanted to go back to and look at and think about. And I have gone beyond reading just a story now. For a while, I was really content to just sit and read fiction. And I loved it because I could create my own world, but it wasn't bringing me the same type of happiness I was looking for in my world. Mm-hmm. And I've been searching for a better understanding of relative truth in many different aspects and different things that might be able to like help shape my mind and my consciousness and my understanding and morality and just overall mind, body, spirit, like, and that's where my interest has lied. And I found a lot of things between reading about psilocybin that correlate to Buddhism, and then I found a lot of things reading about Buddhism that correlate to psilocybin, and then magic gets thrown in and out of there, and then other religions are mentioned, and prophets and archangels are mentioned, and all these other things that I'm starting to realize there's so many things that are tying in. And if you could walk into my room right now, Zane, and look at my bed and the area around my bed area and everything, and just stacks of books. I got Plato, the whole collection of Plato, the whole collection of Aristotle, the autobiography of Havelock Ellis. Ask me who he is. I don't know. I'm about to find out. I have his autobiography. I hope I can learn something. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different things there that they're mentioning someone's name, and then I have a book on that, and I'm like, oh, I've had this book forever. I've never opened it. And then the 3 magical books of Solomon being removed from the King James Bible, and then you're like, oh, what's this? And then it shows the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and I'm like, oh, I learned about that in high magic. And then he mentions Buddhism in there, and and then you're like, ooh, tantric, ooh, that's wild. And then he goes, yeah, but mushrooms. And you're like, whoa, wait a second, that brings me back to mushrooms. And you start to see the interconnectedness of everything. It's been fun. It's been a journey, man.
Hell yeah. Well, do a little bit of a condensed version, but still got decent amount of information out of his books over there. Just make sure you count your goats.
Count your goats.
Anyways,
say hello to your mother for me.
Tell somebody you love them. We'll see you next week. Like, subscribe, comment, do all the shit. Check
Please.
the fucking channel out.
Please.
Fuck you.
Bye. Have a good day.